Welcome to the Roundtable, another week, another subject. So this week's subject is finding peace and harmony and forgiveness. That sounds easy, but it could be a tough one. And this week joining us on the Roundtable is Malia, Nace, Jules, Donnie and Connie, and our corner seat, as usual, is taken by Polly. So, hey everyone, how are we doing this week?
Yeah, my good day, Luna. We're having a good day, so it's good over here.
Good. Okay, so finding peace and harmony and forgiveness. So what are they first? What is peace, harmony and forgiveness? And why would one bother even to seek peace, harmony and forgiveness? What do we get out of it? And what do we give when we seek it? What relationship does forgiveness, peace and harmony have together? And how do we recognise them when we're being it or it's being received from someone else? And how do we obtain them? Is it something like patience where we have to constantly forge to obtain a certain level of peace, harmony and forgiveness? Or is it once we've obtained it, it stays with us? Or does it need topping up? Or is it just something that comes every now and again when it's need to be there? This is what we're going to discuss tonight. And another question is, when it comes to forgiveness, often people think they freak out and they think that they have to back down or forfeit or give away a part of themselves, and they actually get quite frightened. And we're going to discuss forgiveness tonight and find out that it's not really like that. It's actually beneficial and it's like fresh water. So what else we got? A couple more questions. I think that'll do for now, and we'll explore it more because it is one of them things that we encounter, and all of us have a bit hesitant sometimes to forgive, and we're always seeking peace and harmony, whether it be within us or without us. So let's get on here, and we're missing Sharon today because she usually goes first, so someone else has to take her place. So, all right, who wants to go in first? Finding peace, harmony and forgiveness. You can start with any one of them or all of them.
Jump in with forgiveness.
Okay, Connie.
Years ago, I developed a group and facilitated it in an intensive inpatient program, and the whole topic was forgiveness. So I really had to dig deep to study it out to make this, make the material for this group. And I learned a lot. I learned that forgiveness is not a feeling, that it's just something you do, and that how I do it is the opposite of what I feel. Like if I'm really angry at someone and I'm having difficulty letting that go, the feeling of it, whether I feel betrayed or used or whatever that negative feeling is, I will do the opposite. I will pray for God to bless them, and thank Him that they owe me nothing. I see forgiveness as releasing someone from their debt because they can't possibly pay you back what they've taken from you anyway. And it's not fair to hold someone in debtor's prison if there's no way for them to pay to get out. That's like a hopeless situation. And unforgiveness is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to get sick. It doesn't work that way. A root of bitterness will sprout up in us and it will defile everything in us. So we forgive and release people from their debts or what we feel they owe us for our sake, really, and for the sake of Christ. Because if we want forgiveness every day, which we need to freely give that every day. And that is what I found out. Oh, and forgiveness does not mean you have to be in relationship with that person. That's a very important point for people that have been very abused and just not had a good childhood, to know because you release your parents or whoever was involved in that abuse, release them from what they can't pay you back, does not mean you ever have to be in relationship with them. No, it means you don't expect anything from them, but you just let them go. You don't have to be back in relationship, because that is what really trips a lot of people up about forgiveness. And it's also not excusing the person for what they did. It's not an excuse for anything. It's just saying they can't possibly pay me back anyway. So that's what I learned about forgiveness.
That's very interesting, Connie. I was just thinking about the fine line, what you were saying, the fine line between forgiveness and being sucked into some sort of emotional abuse. It is a
Yeah.
kind of fine line, especially if you've travelled a long road to get where you are,
Yes.
and you're tired and not thinking right, and it's easy for that to happen. Would you be able to outline that a little bit for us? The fine line, what you were saying between because you forgive
Forgiveness
someone
is
doesn't
not
mean you have to have a relationship.
excusing them, nor is it saying it would be healthy for me to let you back into my life. You're still the poison you were before. Forgiveness just means you don't owe me anything. I release you from your debt, but I have my boundary and I don't want you in my life. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. I will love
Yeah.
you and from a distance and wish nothing but your utmost highest good. But you're toxic to me and stay away.
So you get to the point where you don't go over the self-defense part. Like you forgive, and you get to the point where your self-defense is still standing, and then you've made a boundary. And just because you've made that boundary doesn't mean you're any less forgiving or anything. It's
Yes.
a healthy place to be.
Yes.
Thank you. It's interesting how you said in debt. A lot of people can't forge the road of forgiveness because of that in-debt feeling, or that feeling that I said, it's like you have to forfeit something to forgive a situation or a person.
Yes.
And it isn't that at all. It's more like letting go of the anger, because this is where peace and harmony comes in. Once you've let go and no one knows anything more, you do find peace and peace. That's why I think people find it so hard to forgive, because they don't understand what you just said to us.
Oh Lord. Paul, the bastard's name. That is so perfect. No, it's perfect, Paula. You shouldn't. It's true.
It's true. That's
We
what
don't forget. We can't forget what that person did, but it no longer holds the power to dictate our present. That's how we know the past is really in the past.
Yeah. And that's what I was
And
talking about, the self-defense. Remember that, it's going to harm you, and your self-defense says stop it before it harms you. And it doesn't mean you're being any less forgiving.
Now, people also kind of perceive being open, honest, and direct as being mean. People are so used to, I don't know, a lot of words and talking around the bush instead of just saying what you want to say and what you need to say. It's hard for me. I'm practicing that. It's very hard for me to just be open, honest, and direct.
Isn't that where the ugly truth comes in, to free you and bring forgiveness and peace and harmony? Isn't it interesting how they all link up together? It's like
They are all interconnected. I think without forgiveness, you cannot have any peace nor harmony.
True.
There can be a truce, a ceasefire, where everyone's grinding their teeth and tolerating. Now we go back to our other subject, roundtable. Tolerating each other, but there's no true peace, and there's no true forgiveness. It's a truce. It's a ceasefire. All right, I've talked enough. I knew I had a lot to say about this subject because I've dug so deep in
We want to hear back from you, Connie.
exactly. Yes, there is. Hi, Sharon.
Hi everyone. I was just getting in here gracefully and listening and Connie, good stuff, girl. Good stuff. Do you want me
It
to
was
throw
funny.
in my opinion about the forgiveness thing?
Oh, please do, Sharon, and I'll just let you know that you actually popped in right when I mentioned your name.
Oh, okay, though this is perfect timing. Yeah, forgive me, I was with family, so I just got in. Forgiveness was so big in my life that I couldn't master it. So I started practicing letting go and letting God. And of course, this comes from AA. You'll recognize let go and let God, right? And glad you're here too, Connie. Thank you. And so what it boiled down for me, and this is where I am because I kept tripping over the forgiveness stuff because everything felt too big. It felt too big and too hard, and I could never get there. But what I could get and could grasp and could work on and could manage and could make progress was letting go. And what is letting go for me? Letting go was, like Donnie said, and also Polly, I may not forget what happened, but I can let it go and let God do the forgiving, but me letting go. And that means no more thinking about it, no more dwelling, no more resentments, no more giving people rent in my head, no more bringing it up, no more talking about it, and letting the person go, letting the event go and me go, and
Okay, so
especially me go.
I have a question, Sharon.
Yes.
When, like when the wound is fresh, I
Yes.
don't know about you, but I have a lot of like just I'm kind of obsessive about it for a while because it still emotionally really hurts.
Yes.
So how do you get to the place where those thoughts and the feelings associated with them are just banished? How do you banish them and quiet all the monkey mind?
I don't. What I do, well, okay, I guess I do, but this I learned this trick and this works really well for me. I have visualize a port where ships come in and out.
Uh-huh.
And I have a bench, and the people that I am mad at or resented at or resentful towards get to sit on the bench. Okay, that's where they're in my head and they're in the bench. I
Right.
visit the bench because I can tell I'm being weighed down. I talk to them. I go to the bench and I talk to them. And I build a barge for them or I build a boat for them. And on the boat is everything that they want in their life: gold, money, silver, food, spiritual light, girlfriend. I don't care. Whatever it is that I know that they want, I put on that boat. Houses, vacations. And I talk to them kindly and I say, whatever it is I have to say. Sometimes I'm mad. And then I say, you have to get on the boat now. And I visualize the boat leaving the harbor. Sometimes I have to do it 4 or 5 times, Connie. Sometimes I have to do it 10. But
Okay.
I keep doing it. And what it
That's
does is
amazing.
the other thing I do, and this has helped too, and this came from my channeling class, is I talk to their higher self. If I'm
Ooh.
really angry, okay, if I can't let it go and I can't understand why They did what they did. And I'm so mad and I'm tripping over my shoelaces all the time.
Yeah.
I talk to their higher self and I say, why did they do this?
Oh, that is so good. Separating the authentic person from the
From
lower nature that did that to you.
exactly. And
Wow.
then you often get an answer, Connie.
That's amazing.
It helps so much. And then I say, please take them with you. And they get on the barge with the person I'm angry with or whatever. So they both have to leave.
But you're also blessing them as you send them off in this boat. You've
Yes.
provided them with anything you can give them. Like if they steal your coat, offer them your cloak also. So
Give
you're
them
not
give them
sending
a boat full
away
of
with
clothes.
thirsting. Yes,
Give them
you're
money.
sending
Give them
away.
gold.
Wow.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is abundance, meaning you don't spend only what you have. You give out of the abundance of my higher self is handling this. I can
Right.
afford this. Bye-bye.
Exactly.
Blessing. I wish your highest good. Bye-bye.
Right. And even if you
Wow.
have to do it 5 or 10 times, it doesn't matter. You keep doing it, but it does two things. It blesses them, it blesses you.
Yes,
It
it does.
gets them out of your head, Connie.
Yes, and it also releases them to receive what they need because
Yeah.
only hurt people hurt people. If you're feeling good about yourself and you're all right, you don't need to hurt or use anybody. You don't find the need to do that. But if you're hurting, you end up hurting others and using whatever you can get from them. It's all that you know. To you, that's love.
Yes. And then I don't have to worry about the word forgive because I think okay, and then again and the last thing I wanted to say about the forgive thing is and God can forgive. I just have to let go. Because I'm not going to be thinking negative. I'm not going to send them bad vibrations. I'm not going to bring them into my reality and be mean to them and hurtful and send bad things to them. And so I'll have the actions of someone who forgave. But I don't have to trip over my shoelaces with the word forgive. In a way, it is forgiving, right? It's a high vibration way of dealing with a situation that I can't cope with, or the person isn't going to hear me. And then I turn it over to God and let God forgive them, or God, whatever God wants to do, or their higher self. Does that kind of make sense?
It all makes sense.
Good. Perfect.
In my walk, I've had gone a different way. Things happened to me and I had no understanding for why. And I tolerated it. And then I found myself getting angry after a period of time, went past, getting angry at the situation. And it was because I had no understanding for why. And I couldn't forgive the situation because I didn't know what I was forgiven. I just had this yucky feeling in me and I was trying to seek peace and harmony. And I'd get it temporarily, and then the wave would come up, and this understanding, this question mark: why did this happen this way? Why did they act that way? Blah blah blah. So I couldn't find forgiveness. All my peace and harmony was temporary. This took me years to get over this. So I stuck with understanding. I thought, all right, I took myself up away from my petty emotions. Of I was hurt, blah, now I'm angry, blah, I want to get you, blah, I want to cry, blah, all that. I put myself high up away from that. And I looked at it from their point of view as like, an outside person's point of view. I looked at the person and the people that I was having trouble with, and I tried to understand why they would do something like that. What made them feel that way to compel to do what they did? What happened to them in their life for them to arrive at these conclusions and act the way they do and have the personality they do. So I looked into that, and lo and behold, I was in tears thinking, oh, that poor person. So here 1 minute I'm angry at the person because they're doing injustice to me. Now I can understand their life, and I actually felt sorry for them. And I instantly, I can kind of forgive them. I was like, man, no wonder you did that, coming from that point of view. So I had understanding, and the forgiveness started to grow. so did the peace and harmony.
That's amazing, because I forgive first, and then the processing comes later, and I understand later when I'm no longer, like when I have some distance from it. I can look back and see very clearly what happened.
Right. Well, this was the ongoing thing throughout my life. So I had to at one point stand up and go, stop, I need to assess this. And what I found, I had to seek truth. And as we know, truth can be ugly. So I had to bear myself and get ready, because I could be at fault as well. Because
Right.
I did play a part of it.
We
So
always have some part in it,
yeah, so
even if it's how we respond.
I looked with truth at myself and them again, found more understanding and more wisdom to why and how come. And as Peace and Harmony set it in, I started to grow my forgiveness, and it grew like flowers. And what I
amazing.
come out of it, I thank them for what they taught me, whether it be positive or negative. I thanked them. And when I thanked them, that's when I found out I was free.
Oh, that's powerful right there. Can you say that one more time? I just want to hear it.
I thanked them, and when I thanked them, I found out I was free.
Even if it's just in your spirit, you thank them, you acknowledge that made me grow in my
Well,
heart, in my soul.
This all had to take place internally for me, because some of these people are not alive anymore. And
Right.
some of them are old, and I love them dearly, and I do not want to bring up evil. So I realised, well, if I go away and find this in myself, it'll come out of me and flow naturally and heal anyway. And it has, but this has taken a long time, I'll tell you.
Usually
and then
the higher road does. Usually the higher road you choose takes longer, and it takes your engagement. It's not a passive thing.
So the last thing I did was ask Creator to forgive me and them, because when I realised my part in it, and I didn't protect myself properly, or I didn't give myself enough love and attention like I do others, so like I said, I played a part. So then I just said, them, forgive them and forgive me, because we're all being stupid humans, and it came out okay so far. But that's how I tackled it. I was compelled to tackle it that way because I had no other choice. And me being me, I'm a bit more rah than you, Connie.
You're a bit more
warrior.
what?
Rah, warrior-like. I'm a bit more quicker to jump up and down.
Oh, I don't know about that, Luna. I'm
Forgiveness
not
is kind
sure
of
about that, miss. Oh boy, I don't know. I'm real calm right now, but just push the right buttons and you can just watch me go bing, bing, bing and take off. I
That's
shouldn't
my
tell people that. That's not good boundaries.
I'm still working on the boundary because
It's a lifelong search.
I know, like
People
finding peace and
change.
harmony and forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean you found any kind of boundary, right?
Well, they change. Boundaries, that's the thing about boundaries. They're a real intimate, personal thing. They're kind of unspoken unless you have to speak them this far, no further. But they're flexible. Some boundaries are a gate. You can open it a little and then decide to shut it and lock it, or you can open it up all the way if you recognize the voice. Some boundaries are like a wall. If you have to destroy it, destroy the actual space to break down that boundary. But they, to me, there's that false belief about being reasonable. Never mind. I just answered my own stuff. Go ahead.
Actually,
I just realized.
That was good, Connie, though. I like that. And Luna, that was really good. I keep notes from I keep notes from these Saturdays because they always help me during the week. And you all outlined some good things to remember after I send them off on the barge to forgive my part in it. That's really powerful. And to thank them for what I've learned from them. That's also really, really good. Thank you.
Wow.
Well, I keep notes too, Sharon.
It's since these words are coming from Creator, I kind of lean on the fact that Creator knows what's coming, and I feel like so far all of the things that we have learned have actually fallen into place the following week. It's like helping us to prepare while we walk through these weeks. So it's
I
been
believe
very
that with all
powerful.
my heart, Sharon. This is like part of the preparation. These
Yes.
things that all our lives we on some level or another we keep being faced with them because it's part of life. And to
Yeah.
learn tools and ways to actually handle them in a healthy way is just wonderful for me.
You
Good
know,
evening, everybody.
oh, the corner
Hey.
chair, you beauty, Polly.
Hey, Polly.
Wisdom from the corner.
I just wanted to point out, because of what Sharon said just now about just the word forgiveness itself, and I was thinking like how do I break the word down as I always do, and forgiveness is like if you take the NESS off of it, which is just a suffix anyways, you're left with forgive, and if you compare that word to something like forethought, right? It's like a pre-gift. Forgiveness is like it's like a pre-gift.
Yes, it is.
So it's already there before you need to give it. So it's not really something that, in my opinion, you can actually give. And I also thought about the tolerance conversation that we had a few weeks ago. And if tolerance was a straight line, and at one end you could put forgiveness, and at the other end you could put anger, and it's your choice where you want to stand on that line. But that being said, forgiveness is also seen as, or at least I see it being utilized as almost like a weakness or like a source of energy for not so desirables, I guess we could say. Um, they see forgiveness as basically a reason to keep exploiting, or a justification to keep taking advantage of. And that's something that I think everybody who's very has a lot of forgiveness in their heart has probably experienced. But it's a skill that you need to learn how to separate forgiveness from tolerance. I think because eventually you're gonna just end up tolerating something that you just have there's no reason to tolerate it. And sure, you can forgive the person or the actions or whatever it is that happened that requires forgiveness. But usually, if something requires forgiveness, I'm finding it has something tied to do with some kind of anger or hurt. So the two are intrinsically tied together, in my opinion. And also, what I wanted to say about on the note of peace and harmony, to me, they're almost kind of the same thing. Whereas, like, peace would be a measurement of harmony. And so because there's lots of different kinds of harmonies. um, as a musician, there's harmonies that sound good, and there's harmonies that sound bad, and the harmonies that sound bad, they're called dissonant because they don't match up mathematically, and so the human ear just automatically picks up on it. It's kind of like pareidolia in a way, except for your ears. When something sounds good, you just automatically can predict what the next note's going to be. When something sounds bad, it's very chaotic, it's abrasive, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't sound right, and it gives the same frequency off. So, in my opinion, peace is just it's a frequency on that whole like radio dial, if you will. Um, and there's many frequencies on that radio dial. But peace is what I would like is a harmonic frequency. Any positive frequency is harmonic, and that's all due to just the laws of fundamental nature itself, I think. So there's that.
So you brought something good to the table there, Holly. The frequency of peace, harmony, and forgiveness. When I look at it that way, I can see peace and harmony has a really nice frequency, like a pool of water that's still. Well, but forgiveness is totally different. Kind of like half like a rock band.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
peace itself was a musical aspect, I would call it like a triad. It's like a perfect triad. The three perfect notes that fit together perfectly. Each one sounds different. When you play them together, they create something else. And the dissonant frequencies kind of do the same thing, but at the opposite end. That the frequencies don't match up, and they don't match up on purpose, so that they create notes that actually aren't even there.
True. When with forgiveness, I think finding peace and harmony, the pain, you can go through a lot of pain trying to seek forgiveness and understanding to get forgiveness. I think in the seeking the peace and harmony is to quell the pain. That's how I see it anyway.
Well, in many ways, maybe that harmony wouldn't exist if there wasn't the pain in the first place. It's like if you were to take a metaphor of plucking a guitar string or any kind of string, you pull on that string and you cause it more tension than it's used to. It's tuned to a certain tension or frequency, and when you go to pluck it, you're putting it under a lot of tension, like more tension than it's used to. But as soon as you let it go, it rings, and when it rings, that's when you get the note. And so that's where the harmonics come in. So the pain is the pulling of the string, but the releasing of the pain brings out the note. So it's very, I think, a very poetic way of describing it. Music and harmonies and frequencies and peace and how it all ties together. It's kind of maybe the reason why we have music in the first place.
Perhaps because I was just thinking, oh, there's someone sitting there and they go, they strum their guitar and go, this is what peace sounds like, and that's a note, and this is what harmony sounds like, another note, this is what forgiveness sounds like, and they got a song.
Yeah, or sometimes a musician will say, let me play you a little piece.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's spelt differently, but it's the same word phonetically. Play you a little piece. Yeah, it's a harmony of peace.
Looking at these words on a global level, like we're seeking peace and harmony for the world, but what I see is unless we have forgiveness and a little bit of understanding, we're not going to maintain it.
Do you think that some of these words have been hijacked by our good friends, the
oh yes,
programmers?
Especially peace and harmony. That was my next thing. Like peace and harmony has been hijacked. That's why it's like, yeah, for peace and harmony, but there's no concrete, like there's no substance in it anymore.
No, I think people don't even know what that means.
I had a friend. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sharon.
No, I was just going to say, I don't think people know what that's. When was the last time we had any real peace and harmony on our planet? I think that people that are, playing the big game, they're very happy with what they have created. And we have exactly the opposite of this. And I'm wondering if some of us are addicted to that, not feeling these, like you said, music, Polly. It's uncomfortable to sit and be quiet or sit and have peace or sit and have harmony. Because harmony to me means you're willing to listen to other people, you're willing to consider what they have to say, you're willing to let things go. Again, going back to the forgiveness, real forgiveness of and of ourselves. I don't think we have any of these three. I think that's why it's kind of hard to achieve it in your own. It's like those of us who are the spirit walkers understand how important all these words are, and we understand how important these actions are, which is why I find these talks that we're all having with each other so valuable, because it just constantly reminds me that I almost have to use different words for the same actions. So, Connie, go ahead.
Just remembering, my dear friend used to work at a bank, and when we would talk about the dark side, all they can do is counterfeit. And she would say, once you handle so much money, you can immediately feel the difference of counterfeit. It feels foreign. It doesn't, the texture's not right. And it's almost on an unconscious level. And I think about the first time I ever experienced true peace. And I remembered thinking, what a wonderful thing. And you wouldn't know what you're missing if you've never experienced that. I don't know. Just thinking about the counterfeit as opposed to the real. And I remembered years ago thinking, why are people so afraid of quiet? I go into a doctor's office. There's rock music, whether I want to listen to it or not. There it is. Or some kind of propaganda health television on. Always some kind of stimulation everywhere. The grocery store, I can barely think about what I need. And the music's so loud. I'm like, are we in a freaking dance club or a grocery store? Could you turn that down, please? Like, it's just weird.
Connie, I think people have background noise, music, TV, whatever going on in public places, because if it's quiet, then their minds, they actually start to think, and they're not conditioned to think.
I think they're just
They have to have that background noise for a distraction. But
always.
I mean, that's my personal feelings, but from the logical side, if you go to a doctor's office and there's a TV and you have to wait, it's mostly to occupy your time.
So I was just looking at the word harmony, which implies that we all move or we all vibrate in a manner that complements the next and isn't disruptive. And I just realised that that could be a rather large thing for people to obtain, especially when there's other people around.
Also, I wanted to ask a question of, what do you guys think about the idea that forgiveness is not something that you're meant to give to anybody else but yourself, no matter what the situation?
I agree. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, is that I think
that's my thoughts. That's why I didn't jump in with forgiveness.
So it kind of makes sense to like it makes sense to the idea that it's a for gift. Like, you think it's a gift, but you already had it.
Yeah. That's why I seeked it, because I needed peace and harmony, and I knew the only way to find that is to forgive people in situations for my own sake. It was a thing that I did inside myself. It wasn't like I walked up to them and went, I forgive you. They don't even know what happened, like, probably. They never patted another thought.
So in a way, that those last few sentences just brought the word, to, at least for me in my own head, the word forgiveness is now closer to the word forethought than ever.
Yes.
Because forgiveness, what is forgiveness really? It's basically a thought. It's a changing of your perception or your thoughts in order to make them fit into a place where you're not angry anymore or resentful.
Yep. And it brings all those other
I
things.
still think that Creator does a better job forgiving, and my job is to let go.
Yeah.
But what is the difference, Sharon? If you're letting it go, you're letting it go somewhere. Where are you letting it go? Oh, you're going to the boat. Sorry, I forgot all about the boat.
It's
Never
okay.
But I
mind.
did.
They're
Because,
on the boat.
because on the boat is Creator. That's Creator's boat.
Oh,
I'm turning it over
cool.
to Creator,
Okay.
right? And then if I get frustrated, I talk to their higher self. So I'm constantly I just want it out of my head, and it's got to go someplace positive.
Right. I
Right.
got
So
you.
but Polly, I like what you said. Did you say forethought? Forgiveness is forethought, or that you get to have it already? Is that what you were saying, Polly?
Well, I'm taking the word forgiveness and I'm shortening it to forgive, and then
Okay.
I'm comparing it to the word forethought.
It's beforehand.
It's already there beforehand. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like a gift that that you get to choose whether or not you want to give it to yourself.
So, Jules, I wanted to go back to you too. So can you give us a little bit more? Sorry, Luna. Hope that's okay if I'm asking
Go
Jules this
for it,
question.
dude. Look,
Oh,
it's our
Okay.
children.
So,
It's a joint effort.
okay. So, Jules, can you give us? I liked what you were saying. I wanted to hear your thinking on it too.
what was the question? I'm
What
going through.
you forgiveness?
Forgiveness for me, it's more personal.
Okay.
I didn't completely. Well, one of the hardest lessons I had to learn for forgiveness was in death, with people coming and going. But the one that I learned from was the passing of my mother. Um, my upbringing wasn't very traditional. We weren't close at all. But by forgiving myself for me, because she was her own unique person, and not, I was my own unique person, and we kept butting. So when death came, that's when I forgave. When I realized I was being held back from my true potential, I was protected for the most part. She thought that she was doing what she had to do. But with her death, I forgave. And with that forgiveness, that's when I was able to find peace and harmony in my life and see how they actually do interconnect and work together. In my case, they work together, and it's part of my well being.
I like that word well-being.
Yeah, that's cool, Jules. I like that.
Yeah, I'm listening to all this more and more. I'm actually screening myself and go, oh, I have some unforgiving in me still. I looked at some things and went, wow, I never addressed that. It wasn't until I listening to all you that I went through the fine filter screen, and there's a few things that they were just laying dormant there, and I didn't even know that they needed addressing and needed some understanding and forgiveness on my part, and empty that shelf out, because they shouldn't even be there. They've just been sitting there without me noticing it. And
Well, here's a question to follow up that, Luna, and that is, what is the difference between simply forgetting about something and forgiving something?
how much it bothers you.
Exactly.
But I mean, if it doesn't
Forget
bother you, then you've
about it.
forgiven it, right? Like if it still bothers you, you obviously haven't forgiven it then.
Yeah, that's what well, actually, the thing I looked at in myself, I thought, oh, that's still sitting there on the shelf. It's unforgiven, and it's actually something that I've never thought to forgive. I just thought that person's done the wrong thing. Excuse me. Blah blah blah, and I just
Well, you know
shelved
what's
it.
weird? What I find interesting about that is the word forgive and the word forget. Like, take the for away, you get give and you get.
Oh,
And
yeah.
right? So, but they just have for in front of them. So something's going on there, I think. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I just had that thought just now. This is why I love these roundtables. You guys make me think about words in a way that I don't get to do every day, and I appreciate that. But on that note, the forgive and the forget are like, there's definitely something there, because
Boy,
I
is
think a
there
lot of
ever.
people a lot of people use that saying, right? Forgive and forget. Like, so they might be the same thing.
Perhaps I think they might be.
It depends on it again. I'm going to take it back to my experience of it. I just personally did not like the word forgive, but if I put them on the barge and I visualize everything good in their lives and I wish them well and I send them off, and I'm not sending them any more negative vibrations to them or to me, the bigger person I have to I do forgive, or I do use the forgive word, is myself, and that's the hardest one to forgive, is me.
And well,
I
okay,
struggle with that.
in a sense,
But
you're the only one that you can forgive, because
That's
when
right.
you imply
That was-
forgiveness, you imply that whoever you're giving that forgiveness to has done something wrong, or has hurt you, or has disappointed you in some way. So for
Right.
you to forgive them is almost in a way just acknowledging the fact that they've done something that you deem as hurtful or wrong or disappointing or whatever.
That's exactly right, Polly.
So
It
we
comes
should
from
substitute
judgment.
the word. I totally don't
It's
like
my
that word
judgment.
anymore either. We should substitute the word forgiveness to acceptance, I think.
All I know is that I think that's why I stopped using that word, because it, to me, again, it's so much judgment. My girlfriend used to call it the forgiveness tape. You know that word tape, where you keep playing the same thing over and over in your head and not expecting different results, but you're not getting it. She called it the forgiveness tape. And that's what started me on a different road. And agree, if I'm busy forgiving you, Polly, for something, you're right, that I judged it was whatever, and I'm still judging you. If I get off the forgiveness train and I say, okay, I'm just going to let this go so that I can enjoy Polly in a different way, or I can, stop sending the negative vibrations, or because I'm feeling bad about me. I don't want to be that person. So I guess that's kind of how I move me emotionally through, or navigate through these emotions, is how do I feel about myself? If I feel like a jerk, then I'm the one that has to do the work, because you're right, they're really not on my pier. They're probably off doing their life, having a good time.
Right. It's almost like forgiveness and forgiveness and anger or resentment. There's like the word acceptance in the middle of it, where it's like, okay, you're not going to forgive it, you're not going to forget, but you're going to accept it. You can't change anything about it. And from there, that's where you take your perspective. Somewhere neatly in the middle, I guess you could call it some kind of balance between forgiveness and forgetting. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, you can forget to the point where if it comes back up in front of you for review, remember what to do, and don't. That's where the boundary comes in.
Yeah, that's why you're not supposed to forget about it, right? Because the lesson is otherwise unlearned.
It is tricky.
Hey, do you think there's always a lesson to be learned when the utilization of forgiveness rears its ugly head? Is there always a lesson behind it, do you think? Because
Yeah,
it
I do.
seems to me that there probably usually is.
That's why I thank people for what they taught me, and I'm talking about people that have been mean to me or done something wrong to me. When I come to the point where I thank them for what they've taught me, I know that I've come full circle and I can let it all go. Because
So maybe part of the forgiveness is that you have to, in order to truly forgive somebody, you have to be given the lesson first.
yeah, from that person, because there's there's a lot of different kinds of people in this world, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from different people, and it's how you handle it. Yeah, it's how you handle it. Because I've watched people, one person might affect a person and they'll be out of shape, and then they'll go and talk to a different person and they won't affect that person. They'll walk away and the other person will just look at them and go, "Oh, okay." So whatever's in the person it didn't affect is what we're striving for, unless they're AOs and they don't give a shit about anybody because they haven't got any feelings. But wise people tend not to get caught up in those things. They know, they understand forgiveness and that and how it works and move through it quickly and can see a situation coming or a person what they're made of and avoid them perhaps or sidestep them or just not react. So there is no reaction.
Yeah, like the idea that forgiveness is a frequency and it's a harmonic frequency, yet it's one of the quietest sounds you can make.
Yeah. Sometimes the quiet small things have the most effect, yeah. They can have the biggest impact. And I truly feel because when we talk about these things and we talk about ourselves, we always say that other part of us jumps in and ushers our silly human part into the right direction. So that tells me there's like two of us. There's two of you, the one that's doing all the things in this world, and then the other part that's saying, hey, do you think that's wise if you go this way? Go that way. And we seem to always usher ourselves in a wise manner. So I think peace and harmony and forgiveness is for that. It comes from our higher self teaching our material self how to navigate this world more than doing it for someone else, because you don't need it until someone else comes and does something or says something and then you react to it. If you didn't react, it wouldn't happen. There is no forgiveness in that. I'm not sure, because some people are mean. They'll do things that are unforgivable. Like, this is something I want to say. What's the unforgivable? Like, there are unforgivable things. What do we do with them?
I was going to ask the same question.
I think that's where letting go comes in, because
too.
and what I mean by that is what started me on the letting go road was things I could not forgive. I couldn't, no matter how hard I tried. And the only thing I could start with was letting go.
And imagine that if we feel this way over these things because we're good people, imagine the people that do these bad things and are unforgivable, they must be in agony, because they have agony. They have no peace. They have no harmony. They have no understanding. They have no forgiveness. And they probably have no love or truth or any of those other things, because what they've done is unforgivable and it's outside that boundary.
You know, Luna, that is such a good statement, but I really have wondered about that a whole lot in life. I mean, people really, the people on the other side of that do things that seem like they're so huge to us, do they really like pay for them, or do they really care? It doesn't seem often like that's true. Yeah, some feed on it. Well said, Donnie. Yeah. And so that's another thing I try not to think about, Luna, is people say there's going to be judgment or karma and all that. I don't let myself go down the karma road either, because again, that's me judging. And if I'm counting on that, there was a time in my life I counted on that because things seemed so mean and unfair. And I stopped doing that because I've seen instant karma happen a couple of times and it was bad. It was really bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually felt bad for them, right?
She's got a hard kick.
Yes. And one guy got a broken arm. And it was in 3 days. He said something to me. He said, he was a boss. And he said, did so-and-so do the job? And I said, no, they're in the hospital and they're ill. And he said to me, it's a good thing they're ill, or I would have made them ill. 3 days later, he broke his arm. He passed out in his bathroom and broke his arm, and I freaked out because that's the first time I'd ever seen instant karma.
Oh, well, I've seen it lots in my life. I know a fella tried to take my life, and I was very young, and somebody shot him a week later.
Oh my God.
And I've seen it work. And I say to people, don't. There's some people out there you just do not. You avoid, because the energy that comes back from that, the boomerang hits really hard, and depend on what level. And it comes back with ferocity, like it's not the same measurement.
No, right.
You know, it comes back.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's gained velocity or veracity, whatever it's called, as
Yeah.
it's coming back round. And when it hits you more reason to be a better person and try to do the right thing, because it does exist.
Yeah.
And I've often found if it doesn't happen straight away, it's a collective one, because it's coming from many people and they cop it later on in life somewhere or another life. I have seen it
Right.
work. It's not a thing I'd like to dance with, because it does have a kick. But I've seen it in my life, and I didn't do anything. I just stood there like an innocent bystander, trying to fathom what had happened to me. And then a week later, that person got shot, and I realised, oh, that was beyond me. The Creator took that one. You know.
So there's an interesting aspect of the word unforgivable, which to me I immediately think just strictly the word. And so unforgivable to me is like something that can't be given first, right? So it's, if something is unforgivable, it's almost like that forgiveness can't really be given. It has to be earned, or almost given back in a way, in another form, in an opposite energy, or some kind of compensation, I guess you could say.
I think
Grace.
the key you said was given first. It had to be given first.
Right. So
Perhaps,
if something's forgivable, it's already kind of given first. If something's unforgivable, it has to, it can't be given first. It has to be earned back,
yeah,
or
Where the word,
compensated for. Or I
yeah,
I can't really think of the right exact word, but it's somewhere in the middle of compensation and earn back.
yeah. I can see the action of it though. To me, it looks like the perpetrator person who did the wrong has to acknowledge something in themselves
Yes.
first before the natural flow can happen. I can see the action of it, Polly. I don't know what words to use to describe it, but I can see the action of it.
So that would be like unforgivable. It would take the person who did the unforgivable to, like, I guess, come around, for lack of a better description, and realize, and then they would earn the forgiveness. It wouldn't be given to them. They would earn it and maybe ask for it directly. Like almost like an apology, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I took the notion to search for a GIF for Unforgiven, and the first things that popped up were just people shouting, and I kept scrolling down, and I found the one that says inexcusable. And inexcusable, I like it as a word to replace Unforgiven, because it eliminates that for part. It puts no burden on anybody. It just makes it an action and not necessarily something that you have to grapple and struggle with. There's no blame associated with inexcusable.
Well, it's
I
easier
like
to
that.
ask for forgiveness than permission.
Hey, I was thinking that in the beginning of the conversation, but it wasn't time to put it forward. Good one, Polly. No, I'm looking at things and I'm thinking, all right. I just, for some reason, I saw different cultures and how we do different things. One culture would look at another and go, oh, that's unforgivable. Why would they do that? But to the other culture, it's like, this is everyday normal. What are you talking about?
That comes
So,
back to the eye of the beholder, right, Luna?
yeah, so how do you do that? Like when someone's brought up in a way thinking what they're doing is totally natural and there's no problem with it. And then they come along someone else that's like, what are you doing? You can't do that. It's not right. It's like, huh? Because I think once this is where it comes back to the inner person. You can get very tricky because you can't cast this across the world on people. It has to come out of people, because casting it upon people brings judgment. So, but getting the person to bring it out of themselves is a more freer way of doing it. You know what I'm saying?
And can you really have like ultimate or like the best version of peace that you could imagine, both spiritually, mentally, and physically, if you have things that are unforgiven? Whether it be things that you don't forgive people for, or things that people haven't forgiven you for.
Yeah, I'd say that's
So it might
unfinished.
be it might be directly related to the level of peace that you're able to even achieve.
Yeah, I think so. Because the way I see it, when you get to that ultimate peace and harmony place, you're free of all this stuff, and it puts you in a different realm, right? I don't think you can be like that here constantly. I think it would be a temporary thing.
What
Well, okay, even the most finely tuned instruments over time go out of tune and they need to get back in tune. So
Exactly.
I would imagine that even the most spiritual instruments have to do the same thing once in a while. And I'll bet you forgiveness has something to do with that, but it has nothing to do with the other people in that person's life.
That's right. I agree, Polly. I agree.
Yeah, I agree, Polly. Our skills need to get better. Is that that's what you're saying, right? We need to
Well,
find.
what I'm saying is that once you achieve a level of peace, let's say you've never achieved before, okay,
Right.
it's something that you have to maintain because it will go out of tune, just like the most finely
Right.
tuned violin or piano or whatever. Over time and with use, you need to retune it. And if you don't have the ear to hear that it's out of tune, then you could end up having to do a lot more work than you need to if you just listen and be more attentive and aware of when you're starting to go out of tune. It's like when people say they need to reground themselves. It's kind of the same thing, I think.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I would like to write. Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn. I was just going to say I would like
Jules
to write
is
a
raising her
huge.
hand. I'm sorry, Jules put up the gift. The kitty
Okay.
is raising its
Yeah,
paw
I can
real
see
quiet
that.
and polite.
This was one. I was just wanted to say this was one of the questions. Is it something we
Oh,
have to keep maintaining? Does it flow through us? Once we got it, do we keep it? This is one of the questions. Go, Jules. Sorry.
I almost lost my train of thought. So if you want to forgive somebody or forgive a circumstance or what have you, if you have peace, inner peace, it makes it easier to overcome those obstacles. And I just realized that the duality is in every situation, and there's a lot of duality with peace and forgiveness. You need inner peace in order to move on and grow spiritually or however have you. You need peace to get through your day, but it also will help you tame that forgiveness and all the negativity.
Yeah, they're tied. They're totally intrinsically tied together. You can't throw one without like throwing the other one attached to a piece of string behind it. Whatever you call those, like this piece of string with the two balls attached on the end of it when you throw it. Yeah.
I had to pull out my book of quotes, and I remembered this one from watching an episode of this little show called Xena. You can't look for peace in the world around you. You have to find it within your own heart.
When the experiences of entities coming together in closeness or collision in the experience of a relationship, there are precious moments where disharmony is created, sometimes known by both parties in the relationship, but sometimes unbeknownst to the other individual that disharmony has occurred. And because of these challenges of either side being quiet and not sharing or expressing or having the self-assurance to proclaim, hey, there's disharmony. I feel that I have been disrespected or treated negative, or a trespass has occurred. And so then when the two parties discuss that disharmony, then the attempt is to find harmony back. And that forgiveness can only be dictated by the individual that has been trespassed upon. And hopefully a compromise can be made so together a harmony can be created again. But unfortunately, due to each individual being as unique as every other individual, there are times when you can't produce the positivity to take away the trespass. And some people will just be unacceptable. You know, they won't accept whatever you do. You may try to bend backwards to get forgiveness for trespassing against somebody, you know, but then it gets into that territory of unforgivable, you know, and just as that occurs where someone may not forgive us, we may not be able to forgive others for things that have been trespassed against us. And then the trick is finding the peace within oneself to know that, hey, I may not find justice in this experience. And also, someone might not forgive me for my trespass. And it's going well within that balance, finding that absolute neutrality to where you find inner peace with forgiving yourself and finding the ability to forgive others.
I agree. But where is the line of unforgiveness? Where is that line? Can we talk about what things you guys or other people might think reaches over that line? That is there a parable that talks about maybe those boundaries?
You're breaking up a little bit, Malia.
I'm sorry. Is there maybe a parable or something, an ancient wisdom saying that talks about when the boundary lines have been broken to a point that there could be unforgiveness, and bringing up that point that Nessie was talking about? What do you
I
guys
think it depends on the individual and how much you can take. Because I've seen people and really bad things happen and they manage to seek and find forgiveness, peace and harmony and move on in their life. Where I imagine if that scenario was applied to another person, they perhaps would have broken down and not functioned for the rest of their life. I always go back to, I don't think Creator gives us any more than what we can truly handle, only enough to know our strengths. Because I look at some people and think, oh, I couldn't survive what you went through, but they're okay. And that's the individual thing. While I was listening to everyone talking, I was looking at nature. Now, we all know that that's the first place we go to when we need peace and harmony. go and sit in nature.
Yeah, I
But
was
when you
going to
actually
bring that
think
up
about
with the
nature,
water. Yeah,
yeah,
good, good.
but think about nature. It is peace and harmony. Even when the bird swoops down and picks up the lizard for dinner, or the lizard eats the snail, or the wolf gets the rabbit, or whatever, it's still peace and harmony, right? And I realised that's because they don't get caught up in it like we do. They just know what is and what is. And they're not mean, like animals, and they aren't mean like us. They don't do things out of spite and stuff like that. They just go along with the laws of nature in peace and harmony. So that it's just something I'm thinking about. Now, think about that. Even when the eagle swoops and catches that rodent, and you're sitting there on your veranda going, "Oh, nature's so full of peace and harmony."
You know what? You know what I love about the birds is that when I'm looking for a job, I always look at the birds because the birds don't get up in the morning and say, "Oh, doggone it, I have to write a resume." They just go find their breakfast. You know what I mean? Like the birds just get up and go do their deal. They go find food. They have to forage every day.
Well, that's why I will always proclaim that the animals and the insects are far more superior to us because they live for the whole purpose of living, and we don't understand that concept. We live for this society conditioning need of having things, where we're talking about forgive, for like forefathers to do before, to give in for the future. My ancestors, the Anishinaabe, we have, some people call it a potlatch. Other people will just call it giving a giveaway, where they will gather things over a year, and then they'll have a celebration, and then they'll just give away all the stuff that they collected, because that was one of the ways that you received your status within the Anishinaabe community, is what you gave and not what you had. So to forgive, to give for the future, that's a tough one, especially when everybody wants a piece of peace.
And there's the silence ringing loudly in our ears, the silence of truth.
Michael Fronte, he had this one lyric, and I'm probably butchering it, but it's you can bomb the world to pieces, but you can't bomb it into peace.
True. And actually, that was one of the, we go to war for peace. Like in my head, that does not make sense. Aren't we supposed to do peace to get peace? That's like, it just never made sense to me in this world. Why do we go to war for peace?
Mob rule. We
What's
get put into an emotional state, and then that is the other challenge too with the whole forgiveness, because when the trespass occurs, then more times than not, we get caught up in that emotional state of feeling from the challenge that occurred, and then to try to make a good and logical decision while in that state of emotion is difficult, and especially where it's an improper wound that isn't healing properly. Sometimes you have to go back in and do a bunch of debridement and open up that wound good, so then the healing can commence, because that's where the challenge, especially in myself, of like forgiving people, because sometimes there's people that you want to forgive, and then they're the ones that'll come back into your world and bring it up, the trespass. I've had experiences with people like that where where they're like coming back into my world, and then they'll apologize for what they did, and they're like, well, let me make it up to you. You know, what can I do? And then you set up parameters again, and then, yeah.
Oh, in our culture, if you do something wrong, it's explained what you've done wrong and you're forgiven and it's all good, but we expect you, now that you've learned not to do it again. And if you do it again, that's a different subject, because we've already showed you what you've done wrong and you understood it and you told us that you understood it. And that process could take a time. Might not happen overnight, you know, it could happen in 6 months, a year, of that person fathoming what they've done and actually trying to do something about it. But if they do it again, that's when it comes kind of unforgivable, and that's when an action will be taken, whether it be they turn your back on you, you get ousted, or you get punished in some way.
Yeah, there's like a protocol where, so say me and Billy Bob have a challenge, you know, then me and Billy Bob, we discuss it amongst ourselves to try to come to conflict resolution. If it doesn't work, then Billy Bob or myself gets Fred, and me, Fred, and Billy Bob talk about it again. If still no compromise is brought by, then we go to the next protocol, which is called counting coup. You know, where in front of council, me and Billy Bob, you know, we'll get up in front of council and we'll be like, hey, this is the situation. We're trying to rectify it. We're not having success. Can you intervene? You know, and then it's discussed to where a compromise has come, where it's like you can make up for your trespass. You know, and then that's that conflict resolution. And if it gets past the counting coup and nothing is done, then excuse me, the shit gets real.
And then the punishment begins, yeah. But everyone has a right to that chance to prove themselves honourable in that way.
So, okay, it would seem to me then that something that is forgivable comes at no cost to the person who is in charge of the forgiving, okay? But something that is unforgivable is actually forgivable, but at a price. Like, for instance, if you get caught stealing somewhere, you're forgiven, but we're going to chop your hand off.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the old punishment.
Right. I mean, and there was probably worse punishments before that, even. I mean, so
worse than chopping your hand off.
So what I'm getting, yeah. Well, what I'm getting at is even if something is unforgivable, is it truly unforgivable, or is it forgivable with a price? And who decides what that price is? Is that personal price, or is it like an ethical price, or maybe a kind of like a law of nature kind of price, or
depends on what platform you did the unforgivable
how do you pay
thing.
for it? Like,
if you've done the unforgivable thing on a community level, well, then it's a community decision. If you've done it on, say, just to one person, it's them. And if something's happened, which is like ours, it's a...
So we'll forgive you, but we're going to execute you.
Well, it depends on what you've done. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, if what you've done affects many people, then it's a bigger thing, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm asking is, let's say, okay, there's people that get executed. I'm not arguing whether or not we should execute people or not, because I really don't have an opinion on that whatsoever. But there are people that get executed for like really bad things, and whether or not they like, okay, can we forgive them without killing them, or do we have to kill them in order to forget about it?
Well, my ancestors, we didn't go to that extreme of killing. We would banish people, and some people would rather be killed than banished. You know, because if Billy Bob was known for living in this encampment of the Anishinaabe people, and he showed up to another community, if he's showing up with no reason or justification, they're just like, hey, what the heck, Billy Bob, what you doing here? And then at some point he's going to have to be like, well, I was banished. And then all of a sudden there's like discussion, okay, are we going to let Billy Bob be here or keep moving Billy Bob? And then there'll be the argument. Hopefully Billy Bob has a relative there that will speak for him or on their behalf to hopefully let him be part of the community. But if not, then Billy Bob got to keep moving.
In our culture, that's where you go. Banishment's like, all right, I'm going to leave you up to Creator. Now get out. And in our culture, banishment is worse than anything because the environment here is so harsh. Like, you're 85% probably going to die.
Yeah, you usually need 2 or 3 people to survive out in the bush.
And it's up to Creator. If you survive and live for many, many, many years, well, that's Creator's decision that you live in banishment. You know what I mean? I don't know, Donnie, do we have comebacks from banishment? Is there any way they can pay their debt? I haven't actually gone right into it. I just know the basic outline of the law. But I can imagine it gets pretty tricky because you have to live with people. Like, no matter what you do, where you go, at one point you have to live with other people and things happen.
Yeah, I think it's I think with my people it was a period of years, and then they would have to come back, and then they would show that they survived, more likely explain how they survived and what they did, and then it would probably go back to the original trespassee, where it would be like, okay,
we had a thing where if you've done the wrong thing, you get taken away from community. You're not banished, but you've got to camp outside community, and you're not allowed to like just march into community, the central community, and talk to everyone and that. You're not allowed to do that. People can, you're in your camp and they're quite aware you're there. You stay in your camp. The other people can go into your camp, and the elders will assess you at periods. And when they deem that you've changed your habits or your whatever the reason that you were there for in the first place, if it's changed in any way, they'll let you back into the main camp. If not, you could spend your entire life in that other camp, and that means you don't have children, you don't get married, and it's like prison in a way, but not. And it's deemed
Billy Bob, this is a bar of soap. All we're asking is once a week, please just take a bath and we'll let you back in the community. I don't want a shower. They're not invented yet.
Like the system we have now, you do time in a lockup and then you're forgiven, but are you really forgiven? Like, actually, those forgiveness and all that doesn't actually come into it. And then when you've paid your price, there is no peace and harmony in you because you've just spent so much time. Well, some people do come out. I do know some people that come out of jail. They come out, they've found Creator, and they come out different. But that's like 1 in 100. Humans.
Repentance.
Yeah.
To me, it seems to me like banishment is kind of like passing the buck a little bit. It's like, okay, we'll just get rid of you. We'll forget about you. So there's that. They forgot. So they don't need to forgive because they forgot. And then if you make it back, chances are you won't. And that's why they did it in the first place. But if you do make it back, it means the Creator forgave you. So we will too if you make it back.
It all depends on what happened, right? I mean, it all depends on, did you kill somebody? Did you
steal,
hurt some children? I mean, I'm sure it all depends on just how grievous your actions were.
I think it used to be if you killed somebody, they killed you so that you wouldn't kill anyone else for the safety of the rest of the people.
Right.
What's wrong with
Right.
you? You killed somebody. Like, let's get rid of this one. He's a bad
I
apple.
mean, right, Polly. If somebody is addicted to their actions, like a serial rapist person, or and I'm not picking on the guys, but whatever it is, if it's something that that person can't stop doing, and it's up to the group to decide to protect the group.
That's
And
right.
that's what's hard about this. I mean, I don't. At some point, it doesn't come down to forgiveness. It comes down to, but we have to protect the people that live here.
When I was a young child, I think Donnie might know this story. In the Desert Mob, there was a couple that married, and anyone that's ever listened to me and Donnie over the last year or so, our laws are strict, and traditionally you're only supposed to marry certain mobs, and if you marry outside that mob, you get in big trouble. Well, this couple married outside their mobs and they got banished. And they roamed the desert right up until when me and Donnie were teenagers, and they had a child. Now, for their entire life, virtually, that child never saw anyone else except their mum and dad because they were banished. His mum and dad died, and he came into society. He walked out of the desert into society, and he was crying. It was a very, very sad thing. He's crying, going, "My mum and dad are gone. I've got nobody." And when you realise he spent his entire life in the desert with just his mum and dad because they were banished. He was an adult now, and they'd gone, and he died not long after, and that was their punishment, and that was the result. And
So
that's
they
documented.
didn't let him in. They didn't let him back in either.
Yeah, he came into it's today's society. By the time he come back in, he's never been to shops or anything. They took him to the medical centre because he was his parents lived a very long time, so he was old already, and they took him to the medical centre, gave him, he didn't live long after that because this modern day society got to him and he was used to everything natural. So there's actual footage of that. It's a bit of a documentary. I can actually find it in the future. I'll put it up for everyone. But he was like the last person that was untouched by all this, and it was all out of banishment. Think of that what you want. You can think about it in many ways, from creators' point of view, from people's point of view, from nature's point of view. It was just something very interesting I found.
I want to ask a question about forgiveness. What do you do if something is unforgivable? Like, there is no price you can pay. There's nothing you can do to replace what was taken, or there's basically nothing. There's no price that can. It's obsolete because it's been taken, almost, kind of thing. How would you deal with something like that? Whether it be on the scale of, like, what do you just forget about it, and that's why they pair those forgive and forget words together, or do you have to do something else in your psyche to get past what happened that is unforgivable? Like, so in a way, I guess you would be able to come up with another way to mentally compensate for the loss that is unforgivable, in a way that would make it seem like, I guess, almost kind of like a fake forgiveness in a way, or at least like, okay, I can't forgive this, but here's what I got from it. So it's like kind of not, it's not like a physical price or a monetary price, but not necessarily even a lesson, but I don't know, maybe some kind of coat of armor or wisdom. What would you do if you couldn't forgive something? Then what do you do? Do you just let it sit there? No, obviously you're not going to do that, right? So what is what are your options after something is unforgivable? How do you get over it? How do you deal with it? Or how do you guys deal with it? I'm sure there's many ways.
I would ask myself the question, 2 to 5 years down the road, what kind of person do I want to be? Do I want this to have beaten me and I'm bitter? Or do I want to conquer it and I don't let it beat me? That I don't want people to see me as bitter.
So does conquering require forgiveness?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'll go back to what I said before, where I had to find understanding to forgive certain situations for me. It wasn't for them. It was because I wanted to live in harmony and peace, because I wanted to live in the beautiful place, not the irritated, ugly place. So I had to seek these things out. But in saying that too, things have happened to me that were beyond my situation, like when that person overstepped the line and they got shot a week later. They got shot dead, by the way. It had nothing to do with me. I gave it to Creator, because actually when the incident was happening, it was Creator that I first seeked, and it was Creator that kept me alive. And then a week later, Creator arranged to have him shot. Like, that had nothing to do with me. So I think at one point, Polly, when it's greater than us, we give it to Creator, because Creator knows more about what's going on than we do. And obviously the fella that got shot did so much wrong that Creator said, that's enough. I'm taking you out of this realm because you're not safe fit for human consumption. That's how I figured it.
Wow.
So
And
that's
I've
what you
watched-
mean when you say let it go. That's what you mean when you
Yes.
just hand it over to Creator. That's what you mean when everyone says let it go. That in their own way, kind of same thing is give it to the Creator or fate or whatever you want to call it. God, the same thing to
whatever
me.
it is. Yeah,
It's all the same to me. But
Okay,
that's a really cool way of looking at it. And
Oh,
so
well, I was forced into these positions. Like, that just came upon me.
well, I wanted to ask Sharon, what do you use in a replacement for forgiveness to conquer? Like how would you conquer, what tools would you use instead of forgiveness?
I don't seek out to conquer it. I look at the word bitter and then I say to myself, how can I walk through this? Like Luna's telling you the story, right? So let's say something like that happened to me. How do I walk through this so that at the end of the road, I look down the road 2 or 3 years and I'm not bitter? And so it starts with not dwelling, not hating the person as much as I can. In other words, it's going to be a process of grieving. Maybe there's going to be a lot of grief because I lost something and I'm going to have to get something back. I mean, I think sometimes when really unforgivable things happen to us, we lose a piece of ourselves. So then we have to replace that piece, right? And we don't always know what that means. Right, exactly, Donnie. Healing. And so that's where the healing comes in. And I think that takes time. I think grieving does. Sometimes we have to grieve that loss. And then your Creator fills it up with something different. But I always ask, I call it the I am. I always say, please don't let me be bitter. Don't let that be what you feel when you talk to me, that I'm bitter. Yeah, I have bad days, but I'm not, like, I don't want to be the bitter person. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it's just kind of keeping your head focused on what is it you're trying to get to.
I've tried to focus on, remember I said, what has it taught me? What gift has it given me?
Yeah. There you go.
And for me, that particular incident, that gave me many gifts. One, it gave me the gift of how Creator works in your life and how powerful it can be. And the other gift was it took away my fear of death.
Boy, that's the best gift.
It
losing
was.
the fear of death.
Unfortunately, that person forfeited their life for what they gave me. That's how I see it now. He asked me this 20 years ago, I would have went, I might have said different stuff, but I'm a lot older now and I can see it from a high point of view. And that's what they gave me. And today, looking in this world, that was one of the best gifts I could have had. So that person, I thank you, that spirit of whoever that is, wherever you are now, thank you. That felt good.
And
I even heard music going, that went bring.
Nice.
But it dented me, don't get wrong. Like when I was young, I was always happy, smooth. Like, you think I'm happy now, you should have seen me then. But it didn't have it dings in me, because also it taught me I'm tougher now. Right, do you know what I mean? So when people come near me, I can look and see, are you going to do that to me? And I'm ready if you are. Whereas I never had to do that before, and it kind of took a bit of innocence out of me. So like there is a payment, even on all behalfs now. I'm realising that, because it took a little bit of my innocence, but I got other things back.
So, in some situations, I guess you could say that forgiveness isn't really necessary or as important in ways to get past it. Whatever it is that's unforgivable.
It's really funny, Polly, I still think at the end of the day, all of us are kind of saying the same thing. Maybe we're just using different words. I personally don't like the word forgive. Again, I like the words I choose, because then I don't get stuck in that. But maybe at the end of the day, we really are saying forgiveness. We really are acting on that action. We're actually.
How about if I say forgive?
I don't like that word either.
What about, I'm hearing other words like release, overcome.
It's not giving, it's forgiving.
Yeah, I don't like any of it. I like letting go. Again, I wonder if this comes down to the fact that so much of our language got hijacked that it hasn't been until we started doing these Saturdays that I realized how many words I don't use anymore, because I feel like they've been stolen. Like the beauty of them have been stolen.
And
It's
so
weird.
has the meaning.
Yes. Yes.
I learned that. Oh, go, Milan.
I was gonna say I love what Donnie just said. There in the text, don't wear tough skin. It makes you harder on yourself. It was a question I asked last week to the spirit, or it's an answer to a question in a sense. I feel like, because I asked myself, if I keep on getting harder, if I keep on putting on this harder skin, what good will it do for me if I turn that to softness? Will it just be wounded again? Is it just going to continue on this pattern that I can't help anybody if I'm wounded? You can't be that healing person if you're you got gangrene of your own. You got to go look at and tear out and look into.
You know how I see it, Malia? Listening to what you said, because I got tough skin now. I would say that anyone that knows me, it's like an armor. Like
it is.
It's like a button. I can press a button, and the arm will come out and go chung 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 chung, and I'm all covered. And then I can press the same button. I'll go ching, and it'll go back, and I'll be soft again. I can bring that armor up now. At first, it was trying to get that balance was really hard. Like, how do I deal with this? I got this on one hand, and I've become like titanium on the other hand. And then I realised, oh no, I'll just pull up the titanium shield when I need it. You beauty, bang.
Luna, was that ching 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 when the armor came on, and then when it came off?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Get that
totally
visual?
lost my thought on that. I was
Comes
gonna
out,
say
because it comes out in little. That's just how I imagined it.
right.
It's
No,
probably just light.
I like that analogy because it does. It makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of, I think, the conclusion I came to was that no, this is good. You know, having thick skin, having gone through, like you, Luna. You know, I've seen death in all of its shapes and forms and sizes and everything, and all of the other stuff to go with that. So, as a person, I think I have come, not other people because I'm speaking of myself here, but I have come to this understanding that without forgiveness, at least in the true conceptual under what we've discussed here of this let go, release it, let it go out into the universe as it will be, and don't continue thinking about this forgiveness cycle again and again and again, always constantly meditating on that. The letting go, I think, is really, really important. But there's this thing that impacted me in my life growing up so much that I understood about forgiveness, and I decided I was just going to hold on to that no matter what, because it made sense. But what I saw was my great grandmother became insanely bitter, like just completely ate up with bitterness because of the abuse that she had received, not being able to speak about it from so much other sources, husband, ex-husband, growing up, all of these things. And she had not been able to release or forgive at all. And it was her personal choice that she made. And that bitterness grew up within her that eventually it took her life. But I think that seeing that, comprehending what bitterness can do to a person is really the most important thing, because it blinds them. They become completely blind, I think, to this. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I can see that. How I came about that was as I was getting older, I looked at older people and I realised there were old people that were really happy and old people that were so bitter that it caused a crust on them. And I thought, oh, I don't want to be like that when I get old. What happened to you for you to arrive to that position? And that's what I saw. They held on to stuff. They didn't know how to let go, and they were so hard and animate and holding on to what happened. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not putting this down. This is raw. And if they only had to put it down and went, yeah, that did happen, but I moved on. I let go. I overcome it, whatever way you want to put it. I received the gift out of it and grew and went on to experience bigger and better things. And they end up happy old people. And that pushed me more to try harder in myself to maintain that peace, harmony, and forgiveness.
Yeah, I agree with you, Luna. I think when I was younger, I would look at the older people and think, I don't want to be like that, right? I don't want all these things that happen in life to make me a person that people don't want to hang out with, right? I how can I not bring that with me into the future? And I think the other thing that I didn't want to do was be so close to growing that because I was a certain age, I didn't have to change anymore. I didn't have to grow anymore. I didn't have to listen. You know, like I think we always have to grow our whole time here. I think that. I think we have to grow our whole time here.
I think so too. It's constant. I was thinking of what Polly said earlier about even the high spiritual people maintaining peace and harmony over a period of time, walking in this place, you have to replenish it. And yes, I believe 100%. It's so true.
Yeah.
And it's a matter. It's like a marathon. and you've got to keep everything in check to get through to the other side. When you get to the end, it's like, did I bring everything with me? Have I lost anything on the way?
Some hurdles are bigger than others too.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And we never know what's going to happen. That could be the big one that'll take us down. Like it might slam us so hard in the ground and it breaks us a little, and there's no coming back. I have seen older people where whatever's happened to them, they can't deal with it in this life, and I know in the next life they'll have the renewed energy to deal with it. And I've seen young people carry things. I've seen the other side where they're born and they're young and they're still carrying stuff from their last life. And it's that way because you do run out of energy and puff to deal and maintain these things. So the new life, the fresh energy, the new mind, and the new surroundings to deal with it are provided. That's how I see it.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because I remember working with somebody who brought with him a love he had in another lifetime, and she was draining him. He didn't want her to leave because I saw her. It was so strange because it was one of the first times I ever saw something like that psychically, and I described her to him and I said, "Who is that?" And he said, "She's from another lifetime." And I said, "She's draining you." And he said, I don't want to let her go. We were so happy. I said, yeah, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that can be detrimental because that'll stop whatever's coming to him. Because say that she's actually alive in this world and he's holding on to the old her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that could have been, yeah.
Prevent them from coming together because he keeps seeing the old her and not what she looks like in the new body, but it's the same her. You know what I mean?
I do.
And
that is so good. That is so good because I know someone that's like that, and he's confessed the same thing. He said that he knows that he knew her in a past life and he's holding on to her. He knew that he met her in this life. And he's carrying the guilt that because he saw that in a past life she burned in a fire. And then in this life, he believed that she was suffering from fibromyalgia because she burned to death in a fire. And
is it safe to say that something that is unforgivable is also unforgettable?
I agree wholly on that. I think there is absolute positive factual evidence to prove that is the truth because our DNA is marked with trauma, and especially the kind of trauma that would end someone's life traumatically, not a natural passing, not okay, I'm going to sleep now.
And forgetting.
So my next question would be that if something is unforgivable and it's reliant on something being unforgettable, then what happens if you just forget about it?
It doesn't mean it's gone away. It means you're just not paying attention to it.
Yeah. So it's healed.
Does it mean that it
if
hasn't
you
gone
just
away?
forget about it, I think that it's healed. I think that's a sign that it has healed. That you've.
Is that the same thing as letting it go?
I would say yes.
Yeah. I would say that, yes.
Yeah, with some hesitancy in that because there is a sense of okay, people who have been abused by satanic ritual abuse or these kinds of things, and they will forget because they can't look at that. That is something that the mind does naturally to protect the whole body from that kind of trauma, because otherwise they would just fracture completely and wouldn't be a contributing member to the community.
It's like a protective mechanism almost.
Yeah, to forget.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but in general,
because I'm agreeing with you, Malia. I think what I want to say is you can forget it if you've processed it. Like, I think if you've processed it, that's a kind of healing.
Yeah, totally. I think processing.
So I agree with what. Yeah.
So by
Go ahead.
process, does that mean like a level, I guess a level of acceptance, right?
It could be talking to people, it could be praying, it's like sometimes if a big it's like if we go back, Luna, I'm just going to go back to your event. I'm sure there was a process in your head that you went through to get on the other side, right? To you where you could finally understand why all these things happen. So it could be prayers, it could be coming to the point where you can say thank you, I learned the lesson or whatever, but it could be grief, it could be you understanding what you lost but what you got. I mean,
Yeah,
stuffing it to me means I'm not even going to deal with it, and I think it's always going to keep popping up. Go,
yeah.
Luna.
I was going to say that you can't just put it on the shelf and ignore it. There's a process to it.
Right.
And it's many things. And it doesn't happen all in one go. And I think it'd blow you away if you tried to do it all in one go. How can I put it? One was for me not to react like other people would. I had to raise myself above it to go, okay, what's really going on here? More so because of the impact that Creator stepped in. I should tell you the story, but I feel vulnerable. I feel, Creator stepped in big time. That's what made me look at it in a whole different way and go, okay, there's more going on here than just what I think. And it gave me the opportunity to observe more, to see what's going on in this world and learn how spirit world works. Wow, now I'm thrust into it. Do you want me to tell you what happened? I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so this is what happened. I'll try and make it short. I was, how old was I? 15 years old, living in Mount Druitt. The shopping centre was new because we never had one before that. And I got a job working in the ice cream shop. Now, the boss that I had was a really cool lady. She wasn't really like a boss. She was so cool. And I was a single girl. And after a period of working there, one of her friends come in, and he seemed like a really clean-cut guy. He was a community, like his father was in the community, a prominent member of the community. They had money. And I thought, oh, wow, the whole community's looking at his family. He must be all right. He wants to take me out. This is good. So we went out a couple of times. Physically, nothing happened. We went to the movies and stuff, it was all good. And then one night I was doing the Thursday night shift, Thursday night shopping, and it closed at 9:00. And normally I'd catch a bus home or whatever, and he turned up and said, I'll give you a lift home. And now this is quite normal. We'd been going out for a while. The boss knew him. Father was a prominent member of the community. Why would I have any problems with him taking me home on a Thursday night? Well, we were driving home, and like I said, it was a newly established area, so there was a lot of bush there. And there was this particular area where we all used to go and smoke cones and things. And we're driving home, and he turned in there. And because that same road was where I lived, but you had to keep going. He turned into that park area before my home, and I'm thinking, why are we doing this? I'm supposed to be just going home. So he drives into the park deeper and deeper, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Now, this bloke, I'm only a tiny woman. This bloke, he was ginormous, right? He was a big, tough, burly fella. So we're driving in, and he parked the car, and then he turned it off, and he just turned around and grabbed me by the throat. And his one hand went round my entire throat, and he just started squeezing. He was going to kill me, right? He was actually not a good guy at all. He was one of those psychopathic people. Anyway, I realised I'm gone. This is it. My life's over. This is the night that I die. I said, Creator, please, I want to see something beautiful before I die. And I looked out of the corner of my eye, out of the window of the car, and we've got these little onion weeds, and they've got these exquisite, beautiful purple little flowers. And I saw that, and I went, I'm ready, Creator, I'm ready. And right at that moment, something stepped in me, or I stepped up. I cannot explain what happened to me that day. But I turned around, I looked at him and I said, what are you doing? Do you realise what you're doing? And do you realise what can happen to you? And whatever he saw in me at that moment, it horrified him. It horrified him to the point he let go. He started that car. He drove out. He dropped me off in front of my house, opened the door as if to say, hurry up and get away from me, like I was some big, scary, ugly monster that was about to eat him. And I observed all this and I went inside and I looked at him, and before I went, we need to talk about this. And I'm cool, calm and collected, right? The guy just tried to murder me. So I went inside and never really thought about it. Went and had a shower, washed all the energy off, and had a couple of pounds and just went about my life. We're going out together, so I'm expecting to meet him again, and I didn't see him for a week. And I said to my boss, where is he? His name was Lance. I said, where is he? And she said, oh, didn't you hear? Some bloke shot him during the middle of the week and he died. So
Wow.
that taught me a lot, people. It taught me
Yeah.
not to be afraid. Like, I wasn't afraid, man. Honestly, there was something inside me. I just accepted it. It was like, oh, yeah, it's not my time to die. This is how it's going to happen. Okay. But it didn't happen that way. And it showed me that something looks after me. It taught me how to handle situations. Be calm, be cool. Don't react. Don't be emotional. Let the emotions come. I don't even know if the emotions came out of that. I'm not even angry. I was never angry or anything. I don't know. I just seen it as a great big fat lesson. And it contributed to who I am now, and I'm very grateful. Like I said, I thank whoever that was. Thank you, because you gave me a gift greater than I could ever imagine. I just thought, oh, that's the world. When I was a teenager, that's how the world is. Watch your ass. Someone else might do that to you. And people have. Don't get me wrong. People have. But it's not bothered me because I've already been through it, and they just look at me and go, what are you?
I've had that. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Watch your ass and don't mess with Luna or
Right?
you'll get your ass shot.
Yeah, I've got nothing to do with this, mind you.
I'm very grateful you shared that story, Luna. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. It's beautiful. It's amazing because I think when you're in that situation, that's kind of where you have to be. Right where you were.
Yeah,
So Luna, do you credit the reaction that he had when you looked at him, asked him what he was doing? Do you feel like he saw something that you weren't like seeing, or
Yes.
okay?
I would have loved to had a picture to see what he was seeing.
Yeah, me too.
Because it horrified him. And he was a big dude. I imagine not much would have horrified him. I found out later, by the way, he tried to run a lady over with a baby in a pram.
Oh, God.
So he deserved, this is what I'm saying. I didn't know he did all them things, right? I found out after this happened, after he died, that the actual horrible stuff he did to other people. And it was like when it got to me, that was the creator doom. That was the end of the line. You're not doing this anymore to anybody. And that's what I mean. The boomerang comes around hard. So he was not a good person.
I kind of wonder, Luna, if what he saw, because you talked to Creator, you push that light out, the God light, whatever you want to call it. It was almost like you said, Jesus Christ be here. Those kind of words, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that showed through your face. Instead of fear, you showed him God. You showed him that God moment, and he freaked out.
Yeah, it felt something like that, yeah. And that's why I have no doubt about Creator, because Creator stepped through and went, no, you're not doing this, mate.
Right. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
With apologies, because as we're talking about forgiveness, hearing that story and trying to find, how do you find forgiveness for Creator when Creator picks and chooses where these examples are going to be made, where 6 years ago a grandmother during her daycare was saying goodbye to one of the children and the parent and helping them get into the vehicle. And unbeknownst to this grandmother, her 15-month-old granddaughter got out of the house and got behind the vehicle and was backed up upon, and her head was crushed. And the ambulance came there and had to pry the dead granddaughter out of the grandmother's arms because she's trying to do CPR on this dead child's body. And the creator was like, hey, let's make a lesson here, and then let's figure out how they can forgive me for what lesson am I trying to teach you by having this happen.
He could have been, that girl could have been the bloke that tried to kill me in another life in a girl's body. You never know.
We have not seen all that is around, what influences these things. We get a piece of that story, but there's years behind it. Yeah, it is something to struggle to get over that or get to an understanding of that. But what I've seen in the spirit is that most mortals do not see the influences all around them that bring people to do horrible things that they know are wrong. In that story you told, Luna, what I saw was that man was clearly possessed with a murdering spirit, and
Definitely.
was going to take it, and to that point over the edge where he not in his, and was liking it to a degree. So, but what I saw was more a familial line. You mentioned he was gigantic,
He was.
large burly man type thing. So it could have a genetic trait, something that is clinging, a familial demon. But what I saw when you told the story was the other side, what was revealed, the protective guardian, what we would call a guardian angel, reveal itself at that point, because it was not time for your life to be taken. It's not that moment. And that time is written, I believe, for certain individuals who return to continue the story. And I think it's very important in this specific time, in the X generation, in this time zones, really, really specifically, that we, those ones who are spirit-led, spirit guide, whatever you want to tag us with, but are doing this thing, walking in the prophecies, these ones, it's like we can't be taken out of the picture. We're completely protected until the prescribed time of our sleeping. Right? It's like this moment, this time, this series, this cycle, like we can't just be taken out so easily. Right?
Yeah, that was the other thing I learned too, that if it's not your time, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. I've learned that many times in this lifetime going through this. It has 5 times at least I've gone through near-death experiences, and touched the other side. Whether or not, I know I did not cross all the way over, but I do recall coming back and saying, okay, it's not time yet. He said, it's not time yet. I got to go back. And I didn't want to come back. I was very, very happy to be up there. There's no pain. There's no, all the heartache, all the misunderstandings, all that fades away really quickly.
There's peace and harmony and forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this, we
The
strive for it.
creator is also the destroyer, and so you don't get to choose when you get destroyed.
I did want to add. I did really want to add to this. I think part of avoiding the bitterness of life is to avoid blaming creator, because I think there's a plan. I think that there's a big giant chess game being played, and I don't have the purview to all of it. And I don't even say, why did God do that anymore? I don't ask that question because I don't know, and I'm not going to get to see it. And like, I liked what you were saying, Malia, that during this time, while we're going through, I mean, look at this time, and I'm flabbergasted. I'm beyond. I'm just shocked every day, right? What's going on? And so all I can say is, I don't think I even dislike people like I used to in DC. I don't appreciate them. I don't appreciate the Mussolini thingy, but we all have this part to play in this huge thing we're walking through. Mussolini's playing his part and I'm playing mine, and I only ask for my I am. I call it the I am. I ask the I am, help me walk through this. And that's all I can do every day. Right? And that's it. That's it. And I can't blame the I am, because it was all going to come to this.
Yeah. And you know, talking about what we're talking about today, I thought earlier in the conversation, wow, really what this is all about is, all right, everyone, everything you learn, we need it now. It's all been designed for this day. Be the best of who you are and stand strong and shine in the things that you've learned, because Brad has taught us the things that we need for today.
That's it, exactly. It's all been designed for this day. It really,
And if
truly
you're gonna
has.
fail fast and forgive yourself and move on.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, Polly,
Don't waste time taking, like, years of your life figuring out why you failed. Just fail fast, learn, move on, and don't do it again. Maybe, or do it again and then do it again and again and again and again, and then but one day you'll learn from it.
The word failure. I don't like the word fail. I don't like it at all. I don't think that we have failures really per se in our life as much as mistakes. It's truly only a failure if you haven't learned anything from it. If you don't learn anything from that mistake, then yeah, right, it's not a failure.
Well, you haven't really failed. You're still in the state of learning.
Right.
I don't think life's about failure or winning. I think it's about learning and becoming better, like finding forgiveness, finding peace and harmony, and all the things we've talked about, finding them, knowing them, and putting them inside yourself where they belong, and trying always to move forward and strive. We fall.
I guess what I meant by that was, if you're gonna make a mistake, don't worry about making the mistake so much and wasting all this time and energy and effort on the anxiety of how to choose whether or not to make the mistake or not. If you're gonna make the mistake, just make it and then get on with it.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. And you heard my story after that. I never spent my life trying to figure out that story. I went on with my life, and the answers came to me as I was moving forward, going on with my life. I didn't use it as a pinnacle point in my life. Oh, this happened to me, blah, 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 you know.
You wouldn't have understood the answers at that age.
But no, I wouldn't have.
Right.
Oh, part of me probably thought that. That's why I said, just don't get into it and just keep going. Like, it is what it is. And it was. Because there's other things that happened that I have held on to a bit and struggled with that were different to that. Maybe not lesser, but different. And I found myself paying attention to it and that. And it was like, what am I doing? I had harder stuff than this. I just let it go, as in move forward. And the answers will come to fix it. And when they do, that's when you pay attention. That's when you go, hang on, I need to go in the room and be quiet for an hour because I've just come across this new information that's going to help with something that happened before. And when you put that piece in, it just automatically fixes itself up into the moment. That's how I felt it anyway. But all right, so we'll round off our conversation of finding peace, harmony, and forgiveness. We've certainly spoke about a lot of things today, and I said stuff I never thought I'd tell you. But anyway, all right, who wants to go first? And we'll round this table off.
I'll go. Again, thank you everyone for being here and all the excellent questions everybody asked and all of the wonderful comments. And I will be using this again this week. So that means that peace and forgiveness and harmony are going to come up for me next week. Looking forward to the lesson. But this was, as always, wonderful. And thank you very much for sharing your story, Luna. It means a lot that you were willing to be yourself with us. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Sharon. And I'll certainly be bringing peace and harmony and forgiveness to my table this week after last week. And given everything that's going on in the world, I have to put that in front of me this week, I think. Peace, harmony, and forgiveness, and walk that way, and we'll see what happens. So, anyway, all right. Leah, Polly,
I too have learned some valuable lessons from tonight's discussion. I am going to apply forgiveness, peace, and harmony in my upcoming week. But more so, I'm taking away that I have techniques and I'm going to apply them as well. And this has been insightful, and it's all, as usual, it's always been a blast, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Look, you're all thanking me. I'm thanking you, because without you, this wouldn't be happening. It'd just be me talking to myself. Leah, Naysay, Polly, Donnie.
I'm just going to say really quick, Yalu. Yalu, this was great.
Thank you, Malia. You know you're busy, and you're doing one of the hardest and the most beautifulest jobs anyone could do.
It's worth every moment. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. Mom, being a mom is the greatest.
Extra special day today, full of extra love and extra hugs, and we all know why.
I'll express my gratitude for everybody that came out and everybody that spoke. And I hope I never have to ask for your forgiveness.
Oh, Polly.
I'm sure we'll give it, though, if you do.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll find understanding and peace.
Ape Gish Minobimadaziwe Rian, as we pay attention to the frequency when the harmony is struck or plucked, may we resonate in delight in our darkness as we're finding peace of heart and peace of mind in accepting the miraculous perfection of unique individuals that we each are in our experiences, and finding the strength within love without fear to forgive thyself for trespassing against ourselves.
Thank you, Naysay. Okay.
Now let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's party now. So thank you everyone for being here and contributing to the conversation, and thank you everyone for listening. Love to you on this day, and we'll be back next week with something new and continue our conversations. And I've got to say, I'm so grateful for everyone coming up and doing this. Thank you very much. Everyone, if you're someone that's listening to this and haven't learned anything, I think you better go back and listen to them all again. Because I don't think anyone's impervious to what we're talking about. There's definitely a big heaven of learning to be done by even the most wisest person listening. So in that, yalu, and we'll see you next time.